becoming close to the father, but father could not satisfy her childhood needs. This has a predominant influence on her personality. Then she went towards the mother. She used to adore her a lot, to try to be more obedient to the mother. Mother is also dominant and she fails to fulfill her needs. Then she got depression. She says in our story, says that she got first depression in the childhood because of the domineering parents and not fulfill their basic needs properly. Second one is she got married and his husband became very dominant after getting meningitis, that is a central nervous system problem. And as he became authoritarian, she gave divorce to him. She got another depression during this period and also thought of committing suicide. Then then she gave divorce to him and married Eric Fromm and other people. Let us not go deep into her personal life. So first depression, second depression, childhood basic needs are not fulfilled, then leads to the depression and anxiety. This is the basic element, basic foundation on which she developed her theory of personality. Once these basic needs are not fulfilled in the childhood, there develops a severe anxiety or drastic irrational methods to cope up this anxiety. This is called neurosis, theory of neurosis personality. How this neurosis of severe anxiety further contributed to development of, she says, 10 needs, neurotic needs, like convincing others, dominating others, or moving away from others. There are certain needs she brought out. What purpose? To fulfill their needs or overcome the anxiety. Here, some concepts she developed saying that as Freud developed defense mechanisms to overcome the anxiety, like rationalization, like concepts. She also developed, she called them as blind spots. We will discuss that. And subsequently, she says that person tries to boast himself. That is false proud. One develops in order to overcome this unrealistic way. But realistic way, one tries to overcome by realizing his own self, develop the skills, merits, and then fulfilling our needs of security and self-confidence and become realistic. There are two trends she told in terms of how self-image or personality develops, idealized self-image develops. So this is brief about our basics of our personality. Now, if I discuss so that you can easily understand it and you can remember it also. 4 basic concepts in our personality are, number 1 is the needs of childhood. And then she told about once these needs are not fulfilled, leads to the basic anxiety. That is second concept, needs of childhood, number 1, basic anxiety, second one. Third one is, as in order to overcome this anxiety, one needs certain mechanisms. They are called as neurotic needs and the neurotic traits. This is the third point in our personal development theory. Fourth one is measurement to cope with the anxiety. These are 4 elements she brought in. All this is depending on the childhood experiences. Freud also told that it is the childhood experience that defines the personality. So, apart from childhood experiences, she also says that they put an assumption that socio-cultural aspects also influence the personality. Earlier, we have studied that determinant of personality. In that we have culture and social agents like school, college, family, culture, class, caste, all these elements come into picture. She also says that they also influence our personality or shape the personality. So she says that what is basic anxiety here? When parents are not fulfilling your basic needs, what is happening is she become hostile towards the parent. This is the basic core element. If these basic elements needs are fulfilled and basic anxiety is removed, then they develop love and affection, and that influence the personality. This is Karen's psychoanalytic theory of personality, basic concepts. Then what are the needs of the child? She says that biological aspect, there are two. One is satisfaction needs and the safety needs. Satisfaction needs are nothing but for the survival needs, like food, water, sex, sleep, other breathing, other things. And safety needs are good bondage, good relationships, assurances, freedom from fear. This is what is required. If these are not there, they develop the feeling of hostility. She says that rather than the satisfaction needs like basic needs, it is the safety needs that influence more in developing the feeling of hostility. Please note this point. So this cause of basic, what are the causes for basic anxiety? I briefly told you about the basic anxiety. Now we are going deep into the certain elements of it. One is lack of proper guidance from the society. She says here not parents. She says society. What type of guidance? Guidance to cope up with this anxiety, number one. Number two is there will be certain dominance in the society or family that also contribute. But people may not see directly the dominance, but child thinks that there is a dominance. This point also influences. She says that these elements are basic evils in one's life because they cause hostility and basic anxiety that determines our entire life. Then she also says that there will be no respect to the child in the childhood given by the society. Here society means it includes family and parents. Lack of warmth and affection in the family. Not only lack of it, but also overprotection also contribute to this. And overprotection as well as too much admiration of the child also contribute to the basic evil. So this is, but child won't show these. Why child won't show this, exhibit this internally? He feels is due to the fear of punishment and abandonment. Then slowly, that anxiety becomes multiplied deeper and deeper, leads to neurotic personality. Neurotic means here irrational methods to cope up with this personality are developed. So in order to overcome this, there are 4 mechanisms adopted by the child. One is developing the skills and power and making others submissive and fulfill his needs or her needs. Another one is bribing others for love and affection, gaining affection. This is another point. Third one is showing submissiveness. So whoever is a powerful person is there, submit to her or he and get her needs fulfilled, or anxiety is removed, hostility is pacified, helplessness is removed, and hope is given. From isolation becomes companionship will come. These are the basic things we felt that. And then if these are not made, we try to become withdrawn from the society. These are mostly not positive elements. There are mostly negative, except the development of the skills and fulfillment of personal, the merits in us. By adopting these, our behavior become maladaptive and counterproductive in dealing with the others in the society, and hostility further increases. So here, if you observe the behavior, there will be a lot of deviations, rigidity, discrepancies, anxieties, and dichotomous goals are seen. Sometimes they will be overprotective, sometimes ignoring the goals. These are also seen in this neurotic behavior. Then she says that once this anxiety is becoming more and more inflated, it leads to low self-esteem, and hostility is attribution. The person try to attribute hostility towards every person. Earlier, it was to few people in the family or the neighborhood or the dominant persons. Now it is generalized. Then they try to gain power by using inappropriate methods. Sometimes they try to boast themselves as highly superior persons. Inflated superiority they will show. So this is how the behavior is influenced by the basic anxiety. As it is becoming more and more intense, we call it as maladaptive mechanisms are adopted. Behavior is exhibited, that we call it as neurotic behavior. So here it leads to more failures. Then this neurotic mind craves for certain needs in order to overcome hostility, isolation, and unfulfillment of their needs. She brought in 10 types of experiences that are observed in the childhood. Those 10 are, she developed her theory based on the case studies. Please note this point. And here she divided the tendencies of the people into three categories. One is moving towards the people, those neurotic persons who are having anxiety, unfulfilled, satisfying needs as well as unfulfilled basic needs, security needs. They try to move towards the people or move against the people or move away from the people. One is compliance person who moves towards the people is a compliance person. Who move away is withdrawn person. Who moves against the people is aggressive or hostile person. He classified personalities into these two categories. So what are there in the moving towards the people? There are two needs are shown. One is need for affection, approval, and partnership. In terms of moving against the people, they try to achieve certain neurotic needs like gaining power, exploiting others, and craving for social recognition and prestige, and appreciation from others, and need for achievement. These are the 5 things I will remember. Power, they feel the need for power, exploiting others, recognition, social admiration, and personal achievement. These are the needs they felt and moved towards this. Also, not only they try to fulfill these needs, in this process they move away. They move against the people. Please, that hostility increases in this personality. Then 3 elements that 3 needs that makes move away. Number 1 is restrict oneself within the narrow borders. And then this independent feeling of independence, need for independence, and then perfection. In this process, they try to move away from them. These are the 3 needs that make them moving away from the people. So these are the 3 mechanisms they adopt. We can say mechanisms adopted to cope up with the basic neurotic state. Try to fulfill the needs depending on the 3 mechanisms they adopt. Now, there are three personality types. One is compliance personality, who is moving towards the people. Aggressive personality, who is moving away from the people. Moving against the people. And withdrawn personality, who is moving away from the people. Please note that these are not compatible. These are all cannot be practiced simultaneously if they are mutually opposite, contradictory. Normal person, in case of normal person, he can try to fulfill the needs one after other, but these people are stuck. They try to be in the narrow sense of the movement. So now, what are the defense mechanisms they adopt? How to in order to cope up with what are the solutions they try to find for their behavior? Please mute yourself. So now we see what are the solutions they find. They imagine themselves about this and try to do these aspects in order to overcome their lacunas. Number one is the defense mechanisms are blind spots or compartments. They are also called, she called them as compartments. One is rationalization. What it did is correct. Even though she is moving away from the people or against the people and bringing hostility, creating hostility and generalizing that hostility to every person, majority of the persons, she tried to support it with saying that what I am doing is correct, he or she. Then externalization. They try to attribute the responsibility for their failures or the stress, anxiety to the external factors in the society. This is external locus control. Okay. Another one is third method, what they adopt in order to, as a solution is cynicism. Assume that negative intentions in the others. I am doing it, I am moving away from the people, I am hostile to others because certain intentions are negative in others. The fourth one is excessive self-control. They try to isolate themselves due to this excessive self-control. These are the four blind spots they adopt, thinking that it will reduce their anxiety. Freud says that once you adopt these defense mechanisms, the anxiety will not come into the conscious mind. That will be suppressed into the subconscious and unconscious mind. Then, what is the other method? Okay, I muted. Let us continue. So one is blind spots. In order to overcome their anxiety, they use these defense mechanisms. And what is the other one is idealized self-image. They think that they develop once they are having the moving towards the people, not away from the people or against the people. They think that they are realistic, flexible, because they are in the safe and secured environment. Once they are realizing their self, what are the skills and abilities are there, they are achieving them by fulfilling their goals or needs, then develop this self-confidence. This is realistic and flexible self-image they develop. Second, self-image, idealized self-image. This is imaginary. Idealized self-image, what they develop is, they think that they are alienated. They think that they are disparate. They are feeling that they are alienated from themselves, not only from the people, but also from others. Then they develop extravagantly positive. Earlier case, that is realistic. Here, unrealistically, they imagine that they are best people, good people, best self, their belief system is correct. This type of neurotic glory, pride, they try to claim. It is static and inflexible, which is not useful in the personality development. So ultimately, she says that this type of development contribute to the different versions of one's self, how one imagines is or realizes or visualizes one's self. But there are, she says that there are three selves in everyone. One is real self. What are the possible self characters one can develop, like temperaments, talents, skills, capacities, abilities, inner forces? There are possible potential characteristics in oneself. This is real self. What is ideal self? Here, please remember what we read in the Adler and what we read in Eric Erikson or Carl Rogers are different. Ideal self is not impossible self. Here, she says that here ideal self is impossible self. It is in response to the what is developed in response to the basic anxieties, glorification of strategies. Earlier, we thought that there is inflexible, static, rigid, false glory. That is ideal self here. So he or she is constructing a false image. Next, then third one is actual self, what you are presently in. How far you are having ideal self, how far you are in the real self, that is shown in the actual self. Real self is what you can be. Actual self is what you are. Ideal self is what you should be. That is tyranny of shoulds. Now, this is the theory about Arnie. Arnie contributed to the development of the female psychology. So after her, there are many people contributed to the female psychology. Her basic contribution is about the neurotic needs. And ultimately, she says that in order to overcome this, what should be done? She says that it is in the childhood, parents should avoid many insecurities and they should fulfill the basic needs of the children, satisfactory needs and the security needs in the childhood while rearing the children. Once they are fulfilled, it leads to the security, trust, love, respect, tolerance, and warmth in the relationship. So ultimately, her theory is dependent on the childhood experiences and also on the social cultural aspects. This is about Harney's theory of personality development. Next, we go for another theory within the same book, same chapter. We are having two small theories. This is the Harry Stack Sullivan. We'll discuss this. Wait for 2 minutes. Who are writing notes, they can write it. In the meantime, I'll try to explain certain differences in the theory of Freud and how she deviated from the Freud. How Karen Harney deviated. One is Harney focused more on the safety and social relationships. Freud in the childhood, he focused more on the pleasure. Zones of pleasures are there. How it is oral, sense organ, how it goes to anal and genital. This he discussed. Here she did not discuss in that aspect. And Freud says that in fallacies, penis will be there in the female child. And she says that male also develops womb envy, she says. This is another contribution. And Freud theory, there is no equation. Equal status is not given to male and female. But in Harney theory, there is equality. Then She is ahead of her times in terms of women liberation and women equality, social justice. These concepts are inbuilt in our theory. And Freud told about the defense mechanism. She also told about blind spot. Freud told about the anxieties in each stage, and here also she told about the basic anxiety, how it leads to the neurosis, how this neurosis developed in neurotic needs. Earlier, the security needs leads to neurosis, neurosis needs to neurosis needs. Please remember this line sequence so that you can understand and write the if you get it in the examination, you write it well. So she says that what is the cause of anxiety here? Dominance, not having proper peaceful domestic relations. This we discussed earlier. What are the causes for the basic anxiety? So in terms of psychoanalysis, Freud awards self-realization, but Horney focuses on the self-realization. She says that one of the moving towards the people, if you see it, there is a concept of self-realization. It leads to the idealization of positive self-image. This point you have to focus. This is a core element of the Horney's theory. Okay. The criticism is, what is the criticism of this theory? She is focused more on the childhood and the social aspect, but not on the sexual, biological, and unconscious forces as focused by Freud. This is number one criticism. Second one is, this theory is not as complete as Freud's theory. There are certain lacunas. Freud says how to overcome these problems. What is the role of parents? What is the role of teacher, father-like figures? That is, he says that proper socialization should be done in the children in order to overcome the anxieties. He concentrated more on the socialization by the parents and the knowledgeable persons and parents and the teacher. She relied more on the case study methods. She has taken more from the female of middle class Americans. These are the criticism about the Horney. You can also write, you have to write one or 2 points on the criticism about this theory. So we'll go for just relax for 2 minutes. We'll start. Whatever you want to write it, you can write it. All these points are there in your book. Okay, certain questions we will give regarding this theory. One is, why basic anxiety is developed? Why neurotic needs are developed? What are the mechanisms adopted to overcome the basic anxiety? What are 3 types of personalities? Horney told. These are what we discussed also. What is their contribution? What is their criticism also we have studied. These are the points you have to remember. Once you answer these questions, you can easily remember. In the book, he says that, explain Karen Horney's approach to study personality. One question is given. Short question. Describe neurotic needs listed by. These are 2 questions that are there. Also note on infancy development of personality. This is related to not Horney, but it is related to Sullivan. Okay, now we'll see briefly about Sullivan's biography so that you can remember this theory. Sullivan is basically a psychiatrist. He got enchanted by the psychoanalysis of Freud, and he developed a theory of. He became a neo-Freudian. He also based on the psychoanalysis of childhood experiences and anxieties and defense mechanisms. So many things are there that we will discuss. In this, but his focus is more on the interpersonal relationships. How we develop our relationship in the society, within the family members, with the parents, with the siblings, with the lover, with the partner, in the society, in the office, how these interpersonal relations influence the personality he focuses. He says that discussing personality without considering the interpersonal relationship, interpersonal conditions, interpersonal conflicts, interpersonal issues is illusion. You cannot understand personality without considering his social or interpersonal relations. Is his core element. I will stop here and bring in the Freud. Freud says in these three, you see, if you study the Freud's theory of personality, says personality has a structure in Freud. What is the structure of personality? E, the ego, and superego. What is the process or is the personality in Freud? There is process is conscious energy, biological energy that moves into the sexual energy, and then how it transfers. There is a conservation of energy that gives dynamism to the human organism and the personality. As the personality develops, this energy gets converted into different issues. This energy is used for fulfilling of the needs. This energy is, once you get a thought that I should eat certain fruit, immediately this energy is attached to this desire till you fulfill it. This type of theory developed. This is the dynamism, a dynamic aspect of the personality, or in terms of energy concept of the personality. If you say dynamism or a process or functions of personality, you have to discuss in terms of energy. He also concentrated, as a Freudian, he concentrated more on how energy transforms our personality, how this energy becomes dynamic, how this energy, the purpose of this dynamism is what? That is what he discussed in this personality. This is brief about his personality theory introduction. And if you see this is the same unit, that is unit number 13. Harry Stack Sullivan's theory is there. From birth to death, this interpersonal relationship determines. And also he says that Freud says that personality develops in the childhood. But Sullivan says personality develops more in the adolescence. Adolescence, that is 13 to 23 years is the critical period in which one's personality develops. Please note this point.
Sir,
Please tell me. Shall I continue? Okay. Now, this point, you please remember, adolescence, personality develops during the adolescence. Childhood, Freud gave importance to childhood. Not only Freud, but Harney also gave importance to the childhood. Please remember that. So when you compare these Freud and theories, you have to discuss like this in order to remember one's contribution. Now, core elements, let us, before core elements, let us see what are the assumptions. He says that interpersonal relations that determines the personality. His theory is also called as interpersonal theory of personality. In this personality, whatever current life is there, not about the past or future, but current life that determines more. your personality. But he gave a cognitive process for how we judge our personality, thinking, what is good, what is bad, how that conscious, that cognitive process develops also he discussed in this. Yes, who gave cognitive development? Jean Piaget gave cognitive development in children or in the person. Similar theory is given by Sullivan also. Sullivan also also taken moral development. How he follows parents, how he follows society, how he follows social norms. That also he gave. If otherwise, you will get the fear of punishment. That also incorporated. So moral elements, cognitive development of Piaget, and here he also taken Freud's theory of energy, personality as energy, energy. This is another point in this. So once this personal
Sir, moral development, moral elements like Kohlberg, moral development. Yes.
moral development, certain elements we find in this theory.
Okay.
Why I'm telling is these three elements, if you remember, that is energy point, moral point, and cognitive development point, the dynamism, cognitive process, and the moral aspects. At the end, he also gave stages of development, 6 stages of personality development. In each stage, he explained these concepts. So you can easily remember if you connect these three elements to personality theory. So nobody says that nobody can live without others. Interpersonal relations are must for development of personality. So how you understand interpersonal relations? It is depending on the situations in which one person behaves. By observing the situation and the behavior, you can determine his relationships. From the relationships, we can understand his personality. So please remember this point. He also concentrated on anxiety. Freud also says that anxiety is there, separation anxiety is there in the child. Similarly, poverty is an anxiety is there in the adulthood. These concepts Freud also told anxieties are there. Interpsychic conflicts are also giving conflict. As in Freud says that there will be conflict between realistic ego and unrealistic id, which want instant gratification of the needs of the deriving the pleasure. And moral, ethical, spiritual concept of superego. There will be conflict. That conflict leads to the anxiety. Freud says even fixations in the each, oral fixations, anal fixations, these fixations also contribute to the personality and anxieties. This is same concept he discussed in terms of interpersonal relations. Karen Harney told anxiety develops why? Anxiety develops because of the security needs are not fulfilled by the parents. Here, Sullivan says that unhealthy, bad, unrealistic interpersonal relations with the parents and the family members and neighbors, peers, friends, lover, partner leads to the anxiety. This is the basic difference between others. While comparing, we have to remember this. So once anxiety develops, he says man will become non-productive, less productive. Behavior gets disintegrated. So what is the goal of education? We say that it is integrated behavior, integrated personality in terms of cognitive, moral, emotional, spiritual, all these aspects we are saying there. Here it becomes disintegrative. Once it is disintegrative, it leads to psychopathology. That is what we read in the unit 1 and 2. Here he says that anxiety leads to the psychopathology. What Karen Harney told, it is the basic anxiety leads to the neurotic disorder. Right? So please remember that point. Next, he says, as I told, energy system, we will discuss how energy system transforms into the behavior, how behavior becomes a personality. Next, he also discussed about the personality development in the 7 stages. Okay, now we see briefly what is the dynamism. Dynamism is energy concept which drives the person's or human organism. It transforms our behavior from one situation to other situation, not only transforms to the new behavior, but also recurrence of the same behavior. That also it contributes. So PSYCH told that there is assimilation, accommodation is cognitive schema. Here also, when a person develops a perception, here also the behavior, there will be new behavior incorporating new elements and old behavior incorporating certain new elements. With modified old behavior is exhibited with certain modified features. But new feature is exhibited in, when there is complete change in the structure of that basic elements in that personality. And similarly, the habits. This is the dynamic aspect what Sullivan told. And in the dynamic aspect of personality, he says that this dynamism has a spectrum that is from 0 to just like a higher point, higher range, in which there will be anxiety of 0 or full. This is what in the dynamism spectrum, there will be two elements. Because unfulfilled or a bad interpersonal relations leads to anxiety. That before anxiety, he says that tension is created. From this, how the tension is coming? Tension is coming from two elements. One is unfulfilled needs. Another one is lack of proper relationships. This is the needs are hierarchical. He says, now we are discussing of dynamics of personality. In the dynamic is the energy point. That energy transforms our behavior. Our behavior comes from the tension. That we discussed in the process, structure and processes of personality. That is unit number 2. There are certain needs. For that there will be processes. Processes are two types. One is homeostasis, means fulfilling those basic needs and keeping quiet. Second one is promoting yourself, going for higher levels. You take up the risk. You take up more tension. So once more tension is there and you work towards that and you will achieve more. These are two processes discussed in the process. He mentions same thing here. Here the tension is there to fulfill his basic needs. Also there is from anxiety, two tensions are created. This tension make you to behave or act. That action coming from the dynamism or energy, that action is named as the behavior. This is the flow. I repeat again, there are certain needs and there are certain insecurities, threats in the personal relationships. There may be real or imaginary. That is contributing to the anxiety. And the needs and anxieties are creating tension in a person. That tension has a potentiality to push you to act, to overcome anxiety or fulfill your needs. That action will be in a sequence. That action is coming from energy. That energy is nothing but dynamism. It is a process. That is exhibited as a behavior. That behavior is modified or recurred or a new behavior. Three things we can observe. This is what he says. In terms of needs, he says that the needs are two types. General needs and the specific needs. General needs are for well-being. That is physiological needs and interpersonal needs. Here, the food, thirst, oxygen are physiological or basic needs. Interpersonal relations are love, intimacy, benevolence. These are the well-being needs. or interpersonal needs. Specific needs are regarding the individual part of the body, that is oral, genital, etc. etc. There are pertaining to specific organ or system of the body. Then regarding the anxiety, there are here anxiety is real or imaginary or threat. These are either severe, this anxiety grades severe or less severe. Less severe is not destructive, but more severe anxiety is destructive of interpersonal relations. It confuses the thinking, cognitive process. Our mind get disturbed, thinking ability is reduced. That is what this leads to the disintegrated behavior or pathology. So when there is no tension, it is called as euphoria. Just I'm not, I'm for easy understanding, I brought in the next page, I discussed first. Okay, now we will see what is happening in this process of dynamic of personality. Here, one is thinking process. The thinking process, what are your needs you have to, you should be able to convey to the others in interpersonal relations, either to the sister or parents or father or mother or brother or neighbor or boss in the office. You have to able to, you should be able to convey it. For that, you should have a cognitive process, mental process. This entire process is unique contribution of Sullivan. Please remember this unique contribution. Nobody discussed it like this, but it has certain elements of Piaget's cognitive development. Here we classified this thinking in into three categories: prototaxic, parataxic, syntactic. Syntactic means to convey, he knows language. The symbols are known. Language is symbol, words. So he will be able to tell it properly what are his needs. He could be able to communicate his experiences. Just something. Because if you understand syntactic, it is easy to understand. Now, come back to the prototaxic initial, that is related to infants. This is pure experience from others. There are no biases. There is no language for him, for her, the child, but stream of consciousness is there. So they are all raw senses here where he cannot express because his cognitive skills are not developed to make it into a schema or accommodate different elements into one unit. So they cannot be communicated, and also they are not logical. But in case of adults or after 2 years, the syntactic element, they are very clear, they are logical, and they can convey it to the others. But in between, this parataxic is there. Parataxic is mostly a negative connotation he gave. That the child tries to identify what is the reason for this problem. In that, he attributes to the wrong elements. He says that a superstitious thinking will be there for cause and effect. So here also he cannot communicate because he is not purely logical. This is the cognitive process of experiences one feels regarding his state. Now comes the self system. He also gave about the self system. Dynamism we have seen, and self system we say that it is most complex in the process of personality. He says that person develops anxiety as that anxiety is transformed from mother. Please remember this point. Even though he says interpersonal relations, he cannot escape the childhood and the mother, as told by Freud. He, of course, the word he used interpersonal relation there, it is also correct. Freud used it indifferently. This interpersonal, first time anxiety felt from the mother. Here comes the problem. How this anxiety has to be removed, or how to get protection from this anxiety? This is a basic question for all psychoanalytical psychologists, from Freud or Jung, and then Fromm and Adler, Harry and Sullivan. All these people are worried about this. Some people developed defense mechanisms and containers. She developed, Harney developed earlier. We discussed blind spots. We have seen that. Now we will see what he is saying here is this anxiety, how one protects is he develops a system called as a self system, and he try to protect this, even it when goes to the extent of isolation, maladaptive adjustments. So it leads to further disassociation from
Sir,
the,
you're not audible.
sorry. So he says that here this anxiety comes from mother, and subsequently other others relationship with others also leads to the anxiety, and it creates threat to one's security. Subsequently develops. First one is anxiety, and then comes the threat. This is the sequence in that. It starts from the mother and then family. In order to protect, one develops a self system, protective self system. What it does is it controls most of the activities or our behavior, which it try to more authoritative way, or it can try to do more supervisory aspects, and then it leads to sometimes confrontation, or sometimes fear of punishment, and maladaptive measures this self system takes. In that, it tries to tell good mother, bad mother, good me, bad me, like personifications. Once this self system develops about the others, this is called as a personification. Who does it? Self system develops. So in this process, as more bads are there, it leads to disassociation from the others. Interpersonal relations become destructive. Sometimes, if it is a proper, this is a realistic self-system. This is improper, methods are adopted. That is called inflated self-system. Inflated self-system is destructive. Realistic self-system is constructive. That life also will become constructive or destructive. So here, personification also you remember, self-system you remember, dynamism you remember, cognitive processes you remember. In that, how one conveys these requirements. Now, let us see the development of personality as told by Sullivan. Just 1 minute. Let me have. He gave, just like Freud, and which other psychoanalyst in our book, syllabus, gave stages of personality development. Freud gave. Who else gave? Can anybody tell?
Erickson, sir.
Erickson, excellent. Very good. Almost all people gave. All Jung gave, Adler gave.
Yes, sir, but Erickson has given 8 stages. After Freud has given 5. The most comparison between these two, where Freud has ignored, Erickson has given added 3 more stages, and where Freud has missed after adolescence, he has missed about middle-aged people and later. So, which these added points in the comparison between these two has most predominantly spoken in wider.
Yeah, we discussed the Erik Erikson's theory of personality development, the stages. Basic element one point always remember about Erik Erikson. Freud gave little explanation, comparatively little explanation about the ego. But Erik Erikson gave full-fledged powers to the ego, how ego develops. Freud stages of, Erik Erikson stages of development are nothing but the ego's development. Okay, let us come back to the Sullivan's personality development. So he discussed about personality development from infancy to the adulthood. So some people in some books you get 7 stages, maybe. Okay. One is first one is infancy. If you see cognitive process there, you just remember that one. Also needs. So you try to remember. This is nothing but incorporating all those points what we discussed into age-wise. Infancy 0 to 1 year. Here he discusses about the needs. We discussed hierarchy of needs. In that oral zone, just like Freud, he also brought in oral zone, the primary zone of energy. Freud says, but infant who is just born infant, he is bundle of sex energy. That is transformed into the oral energy. That is what says. Subsequently, it transforms biological energy to sexual energy to that oral zone. Here, he also brought in, because a neo-Freudian, he also brought in oral zone here. And here, infant is not having communication skills. His cognitive development, as we have seen here earlier, prototoxic cognitive process, meaning that he cannot interrelate different elements of the thinking that we discuss now. In this, at the end of this age, there will be transition from prototoxic to the paratoxics. Paratoxic also negative element is there. Try to find the reasons for his problem or need, explanation of needs or expression of needs. Then here, personification. There are 2. Earlier I told that good and bad. No, here also he is having 2 personifications, good and bad also. One good part is that he is relaxed, he is accepted, he is accepting others, and his mother is good mother. You see here interpersonal relations, organization of personification. Good part is good mother, accepted by others. Whoever accepts him is a good people. He is relaxed because others are accepted. What is the bad part? Bad part is people are rejecting, not fulfilling his needs. Bad mother. This is the personification he has in his mind, infant. Then here baby tries to learn, satisfy his tensions, how to cope up his own methods or in her own methods, independently of mother. Just like what is that? Thumb sucking. That what Freud says, that one is oral fixation. Here he says that as independent efforts to satisfy or allay his tensions. So here is having coordinate movements and extremities of hand and leg and hand and mouth and ear and voice try to use for this purpose. This is how personality develops in the childhood. He has not emphasized more on this. In which stage you emphasize it more? You have to write more on this. Which stage? Can anybody? I already told.
Adolescence, sir.
Excellent. That's why he bifurcated stages into 3. They are pre-adolescence, early adolescence, late adolescence. Very good. Please remember, because if you remember that, these stages also you can easily remember. Now comes 1 to 5 years. That is a childhood. Healthy socialization starts. Socialization means following the norms and expectations of others. Though that child transition, here up to 5 years, child develops language also. Now he knows how to convey his needs. So here the transition slowly ends into the syntactic mode. That is third stage of cognitive process. That is syntaxic method of thinking. So because he knows language, he tries to incorporate different elements and create more cognitive schema in his mind. Sullivan not used the word schema, but about perceive the world in a proper way. So here also he continues to have bad mother and good mother concept of personification. Also he is having self system. What is his self system? He try to be more constructive here. Still that anxiety is not more and more in this period. So here he brought in the juvenile. Actually, in juvenile era, if you see in our book, that he has given as a stage of development. So 7 stages you can see here. Juvenile era says this is extension of the school years of the child. School 5 years, child goes to school. 5th year onwards, we see this one up to 9th year. Please remember, 6 to 8 or 6 to 9, you can make it as a life stages of development. You can make it 7. Here, 7th one is adult stage. Okay, because in the beginning, 13.6, he says that the stages of development, infancy to adulthood. So if you add adulthood here in the book, that line given, there are 7 stages. You have to write it. So don't write 6 in our book. It is given 7 stages.
Sir, but it is like 6 stages only, sir. Infancy, childhood, juvenile, pre-adolescence, early adolescence, and late adolescence.
Juvenile, he had given in the stages of development. Here, he had not highlighted it. Please take it into consideration. 6 to 8 years, it is extension of the school years. That is what is
Yes,
there.
sir. They have elaborated 5 stages. In the child within, they have they have clubbed the juvenile.
No,
But
no,
actually, it is only 6, including juvenile.
no, adulthood is also have to come. At the last, it is there. Last.
Yes, late adolescence.
Yeah. Here, he also given stages of development. 6th one is adolescence. 7th one is adult. You have to take it.
Adult, okay.
Next is juvenile. Here, as we have seen earlier, subordinating to the others. Whoever is fulfilling his needs, he will become submissive to the authority, even not only within the family, but also to the outside family. So now he also tried to be competitive with others during the juvenile period, that is 6 to 8 years. Then pre-adolescence, the adolescence he divided into 3 parts. One is pre-adolescence and early adolescence and late adolescence. Okay. Here comes pre-adolescence, peer group, friendship, and in school or outside or playmates. These are all the influential people. And here, due to experimentation and exposure and the performance, he feels worthy. Here, self-concept develops. This is the basic element you have to. Also, he try to avoid many acts with the fear of punishment and anxiety. Here moral, the development of moral development, Kohlberg's moral development, you can remember, so that this point it can be linked here for the memory purpose. So also idealistic will be there. As if performances they will be dramatization they will do in the peer group. So they also differentiate between the sex identity that we in the socialization process we have discussed that sex typing and toilet training we discussed in I think unit 4. Social standards and expectations will be there on each and every person. How female should behave, how male should behave, how one to dress, how to greet others, how to talk to others, how to give a shake hand. All these elements are given here. All these expectations from the society are considered by the child or the person. They also become aware of their gender and their roles, how to behave in society. This is about, he calls that the warding of with the fear is to reduce the anxiety, is he calls them as a preoccupations. This is also a type of coping mechanism of anxiety. Coping mechanism, who gives in the Sullivan theory, which aspect gives? Self system gives the coping skills. Next, in the early adolescence, that is 13 to 17 years. I think these years are not mentioned in the book. Please write it down. 13 to 17 years. Pre-adolescence, 9 to 12 years. Then here comes the intimacy concept will be there. So relationship, interpersonal relations with the opposite sex are well established. They know how to interact with them, and attraction will be there, and sexual attraction is also accepted. These things will be, and not only opposite sex, but also homosexual aspects also develop. From Western concept or modern concept, they are also taken into the. So here, not only the genitals, but also other zones are also become prominent in this space. And they try to develop a pattern of heterosexuality, as well as some people develop the feeling of lust and homosexuality also. Then need for intimacy, erotic needs are developed in this period. So if this foundation is not proper in this period, in future, it can lead to divorces or homosexuality. Here, major anxiety and the conflict, he also used the word conflict, comes from the opposite needs. Because he is a growing stage, he is more enthusiastic, and mental type of exploration will be there. Enjoyment, tasting the things will be there. And one side social values will be there, parental values will be there. Other side fear is there, punishment is there. So this leads to conflict within the person during the early adolescence phase. Then late adolescence, here friendship is more, sexual experience increases. This late adolescence period is 18 to 23 or 22. Some books it has written 22, some books it is written 23. Then here critical point is social living. He lives as a citizen. Here socialization is complete. Socialization more or less complete because he becomes a citizen. One of the key elements of socialization is how to behave in a society as a citizen, how to meet the expectations of the society, how to meet the norms and values of the culture. These are also part of the socialization. Late adolescence, it becomes more crystal clear in this person because he is having more long-term relationships during this period. He develops it. Here, self-system of coping with the anxiety becomes fully established during the late adolescence period. Because of full establishment of the self-system, which controls anxieties, mitigates either in two methods. One is in terms of positive, or otherwise it could be negative methods. So here, sublimation means of tensions are learned and stronger security measures are taken. This is about the late adolescence. Then adulthood, all these final stage of leads to the final stage of adolescence. It is largely, he says that largely this termination into the adulthood is due to the interpersonal relations from, as Freud said, animal to the human being. Here he says human animal. I don't know what is other animal, but here he says that animal organism into human organism. That means more civilized in terms of socio-cultural aspects. And he develops humanity in this period. Freud says, same concept, Freud says, E is animalistic or pleasure seeking. Ego is more socialized, social human being, and realistic human being. And then superego, it is more spiritual or moral human being. That's how the transformation takes place in terms of dynamism in the Freud. But here he says that due to the self-security, self-system to ensure the security in interpersonal relationships, if it adopts positively, it becomes a human being with humanity and civilized aspects. This is what he says. This is more, he is a psychiatrist, so he tried to analyze the concept from the psychiatric perspective, but he is more towards the psychoanalysis, and he tried to incorporate psychoanalysis into the psychiatry. Finally, he says that there are three types of methods adopted. One is a disjunctive dynamism. He says that he goes against the people in order to achieve his goals or feeling of love and security. That he called it as, because he's moving away and hatred is there. It is just like earlier thinker. He also says that, just like Horney says that it is malevolent. Hatred is there. Second one is intimacy. The dynamism, he calls it as conjunctive dynamism. And moving away, he calls it as isolating dynamism. Same concept, moving away, moving towards, moving against. Same he explained in terms of disjunctive, conjunctive, and isolating dynamism. So self-system, you have said. Also, in personification, we told, in personification, he says, bad me, good me, not me. There are three the personifications he develops in terms of attributing the negative elements, inattention or attention to the